This video is sponsored by Into the AM. Enamel washes have been around for quite a while, and when it comes to painting a miniature in a grimdark style, the king of the jungle is AK Streaking Grime. But a new player has entered the chat, Villainy Inks. Enamels, if you're new to them, can be reactivated. I'm a fan of the reductive method, so you cover your miniature in the grime, and then with a thinner, take it back off, leaving it in the recesses, and you can get streaks over like armor panels and stuff. It's really cool. I've taken a few pointers, tips and tricks here and there, but really I am just bang average. There's going to be some awesome creators that I'm sure are going to get incredible results with these. But how am I going to do? I'm going in blind-ish, blind adjacent. I've used some enamels before, but I've never used Villainy Inks before. Let's see how we do. Are these new inks better and easier to use than the alternative? That's my focus of this video. How do they stand on their own, but how do they rank against existing and established competitors? So I got sent the starter set from Element Games. It contains 7 new enamel washes in a variety of colours. You've got your grime, your black and brown, and then a green, turquoise, and crimson. The packaging, bottles, and labels all look really cool, definitely really fitting into that sort of grimdark aesthetic. The lids can be a bit of a faff to get off. It can feel like you're just spinning forever, but if you grip the bottom bit, give it one good twist, and then you'll be away. Built into the lid is a pipette, and I've got some issues with this. I can understand why they've done it. It's cool, and there is a design language when it comes to inks that I think they wanted to fit into. Just like the vast majority of all oil paints come in a tube, all of the inks that I've got come in a glass bottle with a built-in pipette. My issue is Villainy Inks aren't your traditional inks. Everything else on the table here is acrylic, water-based, and flows super well. Villainy Inks are enamels. They gunk up, they build up a residue in the bottle when they're not in use. So I've found a lot of these pipettes are blocked out the box. They just don't work. Opening the bottles, you can see the build-up and in the pipettes too, which is a bit of a pain. Comparing this to Streaking Grime, we've got a screw top. The gunk is still there, but it's not as dry. It's easier to move about, easier to use the pot, essentially. The darker colours of the Villainy Inks were the worst offenders, with none of those pipettes working. I've got some plastic pipettes lying around that I use to help me with airbrushing. Dipping that instead, no blockages, nice. Seems like an appropriate time to bring up the cost of all these things. On Element Games, Streaking Grime is $4.49. A bottle of Villainy Inks is $12.99, more than double the price. But if you get the full starter set, there is a nice discount on that. But enough about how to open them. I'd love to never say the word pipette again. Let's see how they perform. Summer, in the UK at least, is finally here. I'm usually an autumn or winter man myself, with a fine collection of woolly jumpers. But with t-shirts from Into the AM, like this one, I've managed to update my wardrobe, and I can't wait to wear their new range of graphic tees that are dropping this month. There is a whole new bunch of designs. We've got space, we've got cactuses, we've got even space cactuses, which is awesome. And the best part is there is a 4th of July sale, which is site-wide, and you get 30% off. So if you want a fresh new look this summer, Lord knows I need one. There's new graphic tees, new tank tops if you fancy getting your shoulders out. Personally, I love Into the AM clothes. I wear them all the time. I first got introduced to them when they first sponsored the channel, and then I bought a bunch of my own as well. I think the cut and the quality is great. I wear them in a ton of videos, even when they're not sponsoring us. I think they're awesome. And if graphic tees aren't your thing, they do a basics range that come in a load of different colours as well, and I think they're smashing. So if you want 30% off some premium graphic tees plus an additional 10% by using our link, just click the link down in the description or the pinned comment. And thank you for Into the AM for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to painting. These are heavily marketed towards grimdark and I think Death Guard. adjust that. So I took a box of Terminators and got started. I've been keen to get in some airbrush practice, so I primed everything brown and went over the top with some Tamiya flat white. When it comes to paints, the grime really does dull down the colour quite a bit. This Terminator used to be more yellow, Streaking Grimed him, and now he looks orange. So I'm going in with brighter greens than I normally would. I picked out Gut Ripper Flesh and Gilly Dew. I forgot some of the contrasts cover insanely well and just covered up all my airbrush work with the Gut Ripper Flesh. Oops. Army Painter, however, worked exactly as I wanted it to, so nice one, speed paint. Blacked out the details, put in the rest of the base coats, again a bit brighter than I usually would. I usually do metallics afterwards to keep that shine there, but wanted to see how everything reacted under grime, so put them down too. Went brighter with them as well, going silver instead of gunmetal, and then putting a dot of silver into the brass just to brighten it up a little. I also gave the fleshy bits a really light wash of crimson. We're finally here. It's grime time. Streaking Grime first, as that's my baseline to test from. Goes through an airbrush really well, covers insanely well, adhering to the miniature all over. Bright to dark, just like that. And then just getting a cotton bud, dipping it into the enamel thinner, and rolling it over the miniature and taking off the grime. It stays in the recesses and you can leave deposits on the armor. It's ace. I'm going to use Goon's Grime now as a direct comparison. It seems a lot thinner through an airbrush. It's pooling on the mini a bit more, but I got coverage all over eventually, although a bit speckly. In case it's an airbrush issue, I painted on some too, and that thinness definitely persevered. It was taking a while to dry, so in the meantime, I got stuck into some of the additional colours on offer. Crimson first for the skin. You can see how gooey it was, which made me kind of think I probably hadn't shook the bottles enough, and that might have been my issues with Goon's Grime. So I shook the crap out of this one. It improved, and we got started. Went on really well. The colour is really sexy. Taking it off with spirits and bringing back that bright undercoat, I think it looks ace. And gross, but mainly ace. Rust up next. I was worried shaking the bottle wasn't enough, so stuck the back of a brush into the bottle and stirred up all the gunk at the bottom. I definitely think an agitator would be a welcome addition here. This did go on well, however, it's quite dark, but it looks decent. I'm trying the turquoise as a verdigris type thing, painting it over the brass. I did struggle with this a bit, I'm not sure why, but in the recesses and around the bolts and stuff, it does look nice. So I'm gonna go back to the grime now and give this more of a go. I gave up waiting for it to dry, or it dried a bit shiny, and used the same removal techniques. Most of the darkest brown sludge seemed to pool off of the miniature on the base, which I don't know if that's good or bad. Some of that speckliness remained, but trying to remove that, I just ended up taking away all of the grime. I think this one's on me for not stirring and shaking enough, so I stuck the back of the brush in there again and shook it for 6 minutes. The website recommends a vortex mixer, but I didn't want to use one as I don't think it's something many painters will have, and they're a £20 to £30 investment on top of an already premium priced product. Brushing on again, airbrush on another, and here are the results of Goon's Grime brushed on, airbrushed on, and then Streaking Grime as a direct comparison through an airbrush as well. Goon's Grime does just seem a bit lighter in application. And then I thought, compare the rust too. I've got a couple of AK rust paints that are enamels, so gave them a go as well. I also broke out Dirty Down Rust, because if you're making a paint that says rust, Dirty Down is kind of the king of that one at the moment. Right then, I'm calling it quits with the enamels. I'm going to tidy up all of this crap, chuck a couple of highlights on these, base them, and then we will get on to some conclusions. So now we're on to our Spinny Results time. Most importantly, I've had fun and I've come out the other end with some cool grimy Death Guard. First I've ever painted, so I am pretty chuffed. side by side in a blind test. I'm not sure I'd be able to say that the middle one here is Streaking Grime and the rest are Goons Grime. The left here is Goons and then the right is Streaking Grime. They look gross, they look grimy, so I've achieved my goals. Pre-Grime, I thought I preferred the speed painted marines, but the Gut Ripper Flesh being a bit brighter has helped. More pale and grim, which is quite Death Guard, isn't it? Grime feels like grimdark cheating, and it's awesome. I ended up using the 3 different rust effects, AK Dirty Down, and then Sector Rust from Villainy Inks. Sector Rust is dark, kind of like the turquoise was. I think I'd like it to stand out a little bit more. I did really quite like the AK Rust, and then the Dirty Down is obviously awesome. By far and away, my favourite of these Villainy Inks is Crimson. Never used anything like that before, and the results were smashing. It's the most unique of the paints, I think, and maybe that's why I really, really liked it. So moving on to my final sort of conclusions and opinions, I found these temperamental to use. I'm sure lots of other creators got great results, but I've definitely struggled a little bit. Now, I get that hobby products can be like this, and that is absolutely fine. I'm just a huge fan of stuff that just works out the bottle. So I could pay more than double the price. I could store the bottle sideways, which has been recommended to me by a few people. I could keep a pin on hand to unblock the pipettes if they get gunked up. I could buy a vortex mixer, or I could heat it and shake it to within an inch of its life. And after doing that, I'm sure that I'd probably be able to get better results. Or I could just buy Streaking Grime. Overall, I really like the miniatures that I've painted, and that is the most important thing. I'd highly, highly recommend watching as many videos as you can of people using this stuff. Don't spend loads of money and dive in and think, yeah, we'll see if it works. I'm glad I've done it, so I can tell you not to. These do seem like they're more versatile than Streaking Grime. Like, as the set, you've got all of the different colours, and I think the crimson, like the blue and the green, they're the strongest ones in the set because they're less unlike any other product that you can get. I think the more you put into these, the more you will get out of them, I think is my conclusion at the end. And there we go. Unsure if I provided any help to anyone with this one, but hopefully it has been somewhat useful. Those were my experiences of playing with Villainy Inks, and that is that. See you in the next one. There we go.